Welcome to the heart of Mexico. Get ready to embark on a vibrant journey through the magnificent Mexico City, where culture, history, and excitement converge. Join us as we unveil the top 10 must-do experiences that will make your visit truly unforgettable. From iconic landmarks to hidden gems, let's dive into the essence of this captivating city. Number 10. National Palace. Filling the whole eastern boundary of the Zócalo is the facade of the National Palace, which has the iconic balcony where the president gives the Grito de Dolores, Cry of Dolores, in honor of Mexican independence. When you're staring at this mammoth complex started in the 16th century for the conquistador Hernán Cortés, you may get a thrill to consider that it was partially built with stone from Moctezuma II's Aztec palace that was here before. Be sure to head through the central portal to see the botanical garden and grand courtyard. Number 9. Zócalo, Plaza de la Constitución. Once Tenochtitlan's ceremonial center, Zócalo is Mexico City's main square. The magnitude of this space is hard to put it into words, and it's the second largest city plaza in the world after Red Square in Moscow. To the north is the Cathedral of Mexico City, and on the eastern frontage is the National Palace, both of which we'll talk about shortly. And just as indigenous Mexica ceremonies took place at the Zócalo before the Spanish arrived, it's now Mexico City's main gathering point for celebrations on Mexican Independence Day, El Grito on the night of the 15th of September, Corpus Christi and Holy Week. Number 8. Historic Center. The oldest part of Mexico City is built on a former island where the Aztec city of Tenochtitlan once stood. This was besieged in 1521 by the Spanish and, once conquered, was completely razed. The lake surrounding Tenochtitlan was drained, which is why the ground under Mexico City is so soft. Many of the monuments in the historic center are on sites that were once important to its pre-Columbian residents. The cathedral is over the ruins of the main Aztec temple, while the National Palace stands where the palace of the Aztec ruler Moctezuma used to be. Number 7. Coyoacán. The southern borough of Coyoacán was a separate settlement to Mexico City all the way up to 1857, and still feels like its own small town. In the 20th century it rose to fame as the home to Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, as well as Leon Trotsky, who was granted asylum after Kahlo and Rivera petitioned the government. The counterculture flourished here, and Coyoacán is still associated with arty, bohemian types. The historic center of Coyoacán is a mosaic of squares and parks connected by cobblestone streets. It's somewhere to peruse arts and crafts markets and sample some street food. The central square is Plaza Hidalgo, shaded by Indian laurel trees and palms, and laid with formal gardens traced by low hedges. Number 6. Palacio de Bellas Arts. A cultural venue fitting for a capital, the Palacio de Bellas Arts is a stirring historicist and Art Nouveau monument on the east side of the Alameda Central Park. While the building was started in 1904, construction was delayed in 1913 and wouldn't be resumed until the early 30s. So the interior has a later Art Deco design, calling on pre-Hispanic motifs like Maya Chac masks on light fittings and serpents' heads on window arches. To really appreciate the full splendor of the auditorium, which has an incredible glass curtain designed by Tiffany's, you have to come for a performance, preferably by the Ballet Folclórico de Mexico. Number 5. Paseo de la Reforma. A broad avenue running diagonally through the center of the city, the Paseo de la Reforma is from the 1860s and was inspired by the grand boulevards in fashion in Europe at the time. The route is flanked by embassies, skyscrapers and also occasional stands selling tacos and tortas. For sightseers there's no better introduction to the city, as the Paseo de la Reforma will lead you right through the Bosque de Chapultepec and passes in front of the National Anthropology Museum. Other must-sees include two major monuments for Mexican national identity. The first is the Monumento a la Revolución, the tallest triumphal arch in the world, erected at the intersection with the Avenida de los Insurgentes in phases in the first half of the 20th century. Number 4. Bosque de Chapultepec. At 686 hectares, the green space enclosing the castle is on the list of the largest urban parks in the world. The Bosque de Chapultepec was a green escape long before the Spanish arrived, and was a sanctuary for Tenochtitlan's Aztec rulers. Amid the cedars, sequoias, poplars and palms are a host of visitor attractions like the Chapultepec Zoo, the Rufino Tamayo Contemporary Art Museum, and of course the National Anthropology Museum. Naturally, you can take part in typical park activities, like picnics or boating around the Lago de Chapultepec. Number 3. Chapultepec Castle. At the top of the rocky Chapultepec Hill in the namesake forest, the palatial Chapultepec Castle was begun in 1783 and is the only castle in the Americas existing from the days of New Spain. A kind of Mexican Versailles, with formal gardens and sumptuous views of the city from terraces, Chapultepec was a summer residence for the viceroy and after the revolution became the seat of Emperor Maximilian I. Over the last 240 years the complex has been an observatory and military academy, and today houses the National History Museum, full of weapons, murals, maps and artifacts like the imperial coach. You'll take a self-guided tour of the palace interiors, embellished with stained glass, damask wallpaper, portraits, musical instruments and furniture from the royal and imperial periods. Number 2. Frida Kahlo Museum. Also known as the Casa Azul for its cobalt blue walls, the Frida Kahlo Museum is the home of one of Mexico's most famous artists. She was born at this building in the Coyoacán borough, grew up here, shared it with her husband Diego Rivera and passed away in a room on the upper floor in 1954. Except for the glass cases put up around some exhibits, the house has been kept as it was in the 1950s and has a miscellany of items like traditional Mexican cookware, pre-Columbian artifacts, art by Diego Rivera, Paul Klee and José María Velasco, and Judas, papier-mâché figures used in traditional Mexican celebrations. Number 1. National Anthropology Museum. The place where you can feed your curiosity for Mexico's pre-Columbian cultures, the National Anthropology Museum is rich with artifacts and anthropological exhibits spanning millennia. More than a trip into Mexico's past, the museum cuts to the core of modern Mexican identity and pays tribute to its indigenous people. There's in-depth information and artifacts, reliefs, statues, murals and much more, for every pre-Hispanic culture on Mexican territory, including the Olmecs, Mayans and Aztecs. Don't leave without seeing the world-famous Aztec sunstone, an intricately carved calendar stone, weighing 20 tons and with an image of the sun god Tanatia at its center. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more travel inspiration from around the world. Until next time, keep exploring, keep wandering, and keep embracing the beauty that our incredible planet has to offer.